Hello everyone, welcome to Zaref Game Dev. In this video, I'm going to create the stack game in Unity. So let's start creating the game. So I have a basic scene setup and I've created a new scene and just renamed it as gameplay. And now we'll set up the scene. So let's create the UI first. So the UI doesn't have nothing much. It just has this core text and there's a button for playing. So for the score text, let's set it to score and let's set it to 0 for now and let's make it white. And let's position it in the center and we'll make its size a little bit higher and alignment to the center. And its width a little bit small, so let's make it large. 192, 128, and let's have it bold. So it's already looking little bit good, and let's position towards the top. So negative 125. So that's the score. Now let's add a button. So for the button, we'll just call it start, and it's going to be 1200 by 1200, and let's make it transparent. And it's going to position towards the center. Let's not have any transition. And similarly for the button, did we use TM Pro? Let's use TM Pro button. The UI text Pro. Call it start. And similarly for the color, 1200 by 1200. Red 00. And afterwards, let's set up the text. So it's going to say click to play, and similarly this is going to be white. Let's make it bold and let's make the size 92 so it fits perfect. And yep, it's looking good. Now after having this button, let's add the tile we are going to use. So that tile is going to be a cube, and its x and z size scale will be 4 cross 4. And now let's set up the camera. So the camera is going to be orthographic, and as you can see, we are it like this. And let's so we are already having some that looks good. Now let's change the x coordinate and the y coordinates. We are able to see how it's going. And let's change the scale. So this is how it's looking right now. And if we type scale, that's how the starting screen is going to look. After that, let's create all the folders. So one will be for the scripts, and another one we are going to for the prefabs. The last one we are going to need is for the materials. Now the material, let's rename it to the bottom tile, and it's that's add already as a box collider, so yes, So after having this button, now let's set up the color so it doesn't look ugly. Inside the materials, let's create a new material and we'll just call it tile material. For the tile material, let's have it a little bit of orange and set the material of this bottom tile to. Now we have the camera setup. Let's set up the directional. So let's change good. And afterwards, let's just position camera a little bit high. Directional light a little bit. Be negative 30 and let's position a little bit higher so it looks good. Afterwards, we have our main camera, the directional light, and we'll need a spawner. So let's create an empty game object, call it spawner. This spawner is going to be positioned at 1, and let's create the scripts first. So we'll need to create a script for the tile. Once one more is going to be for the lost. And afterwards, need for the so let's add the spawn. Similarly, for the bottom tile, let's just create it once. Let's 0 as next. So we have our bottom tile. We are not going to change it. Let's rename it to tile. And for this tile, we'll save it as a prefab. We'll add a tile script and let's delete it. And for the tile to look good, let's change the lighting settings. Add the rendering, lighting, red lighting. So it will generate the lighting and else will. So the editor, it doesn't show dark. That's why I've done it. Now after having this, what we'll need to create is the tile first. So let's go inside the prefabs and let me open up the editor. Yep, there's the Visual Studio Editor. And let's set up the lost tile first because it's not having much. So inside the scripts, let's open the this one is just going to have start will just get destroyed game object and after 5 seconds lost tiles go get and inside the update if transform.position.y is 5f then will destroy. So that's it for the lost tile. Now let's set up the tile. So for the tile first thing we need to first thing we need is to have it move left and right. So we'll do it in the update and we'll set up a couple of parameters so it works correctly. So the first thing we need is how much distance which we want to move, or the calculating distance and maximum distance. And afterwards, let's add the step, because we are going to use it outside the update function. And let's have them for, and afterwards one more for the move x, x direction or the z. So let's set it up, going to 5.5, distance going to be maximum distance, and afterwards forwards going to false if we are in the x, and we'll do transform dot transform dot translate, where will translate those, and else we'll do transform dot translate row 0 distance, so it moves towards the edge. And similarly, inside the update function, let's first calculate the step length is the time dot delta time. Let's do step. Afterwards, we are moving in that direction, and let's create a function. So let's call it void move x. Is going to be void move. So if we are moving in the x direction, then we'll far go the move x. Else, uh, so for the move x and move z, it's going to be similar. And let's see. So the first thing we are going to check if we are moving forward. Afterwards, we are going to check if we have reached the end. So if distance less than maximum. So if we have not reached the end, then what we'll do is transform dot translate, and we'll translate step length x step, and let's change the distance as is equals to step. Else what we'll do is we'll do move forward. So let's copy this, and instead of if move forward, just have it as an. Here we are going to check if distance is greater than negative of maximum distance and negative step length. And similarly, at the end, move forwards going to have the move x. Copy this code here, go inside the move z, instead of having this here, have the. So it should move left and right. Let's go inside Unity and let's see for tile is move. So if we have a tile, so let's add a tile positioned correctly. And if we play, it should move towards the left and the right. So the tile is moving correctly, and let's hide the start point. After we have moved the tile, what we'll need is to spawn this tiles. we are going to do in the spawner. And yep, let's do. So we have the spawner and we have our tile here. Now we are going to spawn these tiles whenever we hit the mouse button. So let's do that. So let's go inside Visual Studio and let's go to the spawner script. So inside the spawner script, let's have the public static spawner instance and let's create an awake. Here we'll just set up the instance. So if instance then instance this destroy game objects. So we'll use it afterwards. I already created now. And let's see. First thing we'll need is the serialized field and the game object, which is the tile. And afterwards, let's see what else will. We'll need a list of game objects, and this one's for the stack. And afterwards, let's add the bottom tile, and let's add the start button. So we'll use it afterwards, but I'll just to change the score. Let's add the TM Pro text. And let's call it score. And after having this, we'll have a bool has game started and has game. And I'll add my colors now. So for the colors, we have this colors and there's the modifier and the color index. So now let's set up start. We need to size everything. And the first thing we'll initialize is vortex equals to game object dot find, and let's find the score dot get component, and the component we are going to get is the emp text. Have the score text, initialize this text. Track has game finished calls and similarly has game started is true, and afterwards the modifier is 1 and the color index is 0. And we'll add the bottom tile to this and set up the color. So the stack of 0 dot renderer and dot material dot color is spectrum of 0. And afterwards we'll get tile. Call the create tile function, create it, and similarly adds to the if has game finished or the game has not started, and we'll just and let's set up the create tile first. So it's almost long but not too much. First thing we'll need is the game object, previous style, and it says the stack.com. So we have the reference style and the game object active tile. Afterwards, the tile or tiles. Let's do the active tile. Active tile is going to be the state of the tile. Uh, Afterwards, we'll have the tile script is active tile dot get component tile, and we'll add the active tile to we have two tiles. Let's size. So if stack dot count is greater than 2 and active tile dot scale is going to be previous tile dot transform dot. So the scale is created. Now we need to change the position. So active tile dot trans dot position is we new vector 3. Here let's set up the x, y, and z position. So just dot trans dot x only trans dot x. Afterwards, let's copy it, paste it twice. Have the y and last one for this. Now, what we'll need to do is add the previous style trans scale dot y. So, yep, it's working. So the transform is correct. Now, after setting up the transform, let's set color index plus fire if color index is equals to spectrum dot count or color index 1, and let's change the modifier multiply equal to 1 and color index plus is equals to times multiply by mod. Afterwards we'll set the color. So let's set the color for the active tiles. So active tile dot get component renderer and dot material dot colors going to be the spectrum for the color. So it should create a new tile. Let's have it create a new tile update. So let's do if input dot get mouse button down of 0. We are pressing the 0 key. And first thing, oh, let's just create the tile. So if we are pressing the mouse button, then we'll just spawn the tile. So let's go inside Unity And let's see if a spawner script is. And we need to add all the reference. So let's add the bottom tile, and we'll add the tile. There's the start button. Early, everything fine. Now let's hit play. So the bottom tiles need to be spawned at -1, and we'll do it afterwards. So why is this happening? Okay, we need to move at the Y position. So I added it to the Y. I to add it to the Y. Previous style dot Y. Now it should work. I added the scale in the direction to add the scale Y direction. So now okay, there's tiles. We have not stopped the move, so it's not going to stop. And the tiles are getting spawned. So afterwards we have the tiles spawned. What we'll need to do? Tiles to have the game over. Not looking bad, but we have something going on. Now, yep, let's rescale the tile. We have spawned the tile. Let's scale the tile. Afterwards, add the movement. Huh. So the first thing, let's go inside Visual Studio, and inside the update, before creating the tile, we'll check if the game has finished, and else we'll check if stack.count is greater than how much. We'll do is stack of stack.count -1. Let's get a tile component, and then we'll call the scale tile function, which we are going to create now. So we have the movex here. Let's the public voids inside the spawner. We'll call the scale tile function. Afterwards, we need to update the score and move the camera. So let's update the score. So score text is going to be stack.count -1 and so it should update the score and it should scale the tile. We are going to have spawn a new tile, so Now, if we set up the tile and if we set up the scaling for the tile, we should have almost everything working. Let's do. So it's also going to be pretty much easy. So let's see if math.apps of the distance. So if we are going to check if the distance is greater than 0.2f. So if the distance is less than 0.2f, that means we have done a perfect cut and there will be something remaining in the, so it's a perfect tile. Will not do the combo, but for the perfect cut, if we are moving in the x direction, then we'll do transform.translate and we'll translate by the distance, uh, x direction, and similarly else to transform.translate to, yep, for the perfect tiling, that's how it should. Now, if it is not a perfect tile, then to cut the tile, and at the end, we stop move. So we'll do destroy this. Similarly, at the distance, let's calculate the lost length. So let's do for lost length going to be the tabs distance after check. Now let's do the dot scale dot x and this lost. How much we are losing possible, and we'll do add component and we'll add the rigid body and we'll call the spawner dot, let's create the game over. So we'll call the game over function, and after that, so if we are not having problems, so if we are spawn, then we need to change the scale and move a little bit. So that uh, let's spawn the lost tile first. So let's do the game object for tile is equals to it. Will instantiate. Uh, let's create. So let's do a serialized field game. Right, tile. Instantiate the lost tile, and let's set it transform, position, scale, and color. So let's set up the scale. So for the scale, let's do lost style. Let's go lost style dot transform dot scale. Going to picture 3 transform lost length dot scale dot y dot scale dot. So that should be for the scale. Afterwards, we'll need to set up its positions. Let's do style dot transform dot position. Going to 3, and here let's just set up the y and the z. Y is the vertical and z is the horizontal one. So horizontal is the x, but it's in that direction. So the z position is not changing. So let's add the transform dot position x, transform dot position dot y dot position dot z. Now inside the x, what we'll need to add is how much we are going to. That's going to depend on distance. Distance is greater than 0. We are going to by 1. We are going to transform dot scale dot x cost length divide. So it should spawn the tile correctly. And afterwards, we'll need to set up its color. And let's set the colors. Cost style dot component, and we need renderer component. Let's set the material dot color. And inside that, the property we are going to color, and what color we are going to get component renderer dot material dot get color, and we'll get the color for uh, so it should change the color. Now let's add the transform dot scale equals to vector 3, and scale will lose the lost length in the x direction, and we need to do transform dot translate. Will translate. Let's do. If the distance is greater than 0, then we'll have a -1 as we are going to translate the lost length. We need to divide by 2. So it should scale perfectly. And afterwards, let's copy this whole thing. And here, what we are just going to change is instead of x, y, and transform dot local scale dot x, and similarly for the y, pass the lost length, and we'll add it inside this. Similarly here, instead of having the lost length, So it should work correctly and there should not be any problems. So we are scaling and we'll call the game over function. So the game's not going to get finished, but we should have our basic scene setup. So let's go inside Unity and let's see if we are scaling and if we are spawn. So let's just duplicate the style and we'll call it as lost. And for the loss, let's remove the tile script and let's add a rigid body. We'll add the loss script. Similarly, add the tile, add the lost, and it should work. So we are able to, there are some problems. So we are scaling the tile. The game over needs to, and let's see if there. So the first problem we have is X. So let's do that. That was at this, and we only just set up the color text. Now we need to do the tile script. That was kind of tile dot and similarly for the move X was not public. Stack dot count two is equals to, so the move X was not set up. Now let's see if the variable tile script is declared, but so let's see if it is working and it should have an alternating uh, we are having the cuts almost at the next thing we are going to need is have the camera follow the current position and afterwards the game has ended. There's a little bit of problem. So let's do that. So the tiles correctly set up. There's a going to change inside the tile. And the lost tile is also correctly set up. It destroys perfectly. Let's go inside the spawner and let's set up the start and the game over. So let's go inside Visual Studio and we are changing the spawn. So for the spawner script, let's set up at the wake start and the update after if the game is not finished. Then we'll move the camera and it's going to be a coroutine and let's create that. So let's do the enumerator. We'll call it move camera and we'll set it up here only. So stored move length is going 0f let's do the game of camera. First, dot find object to tag, and it has a tag of main camera. And that what we'll do is while length is greater than 0. Let's create a step length variable, and inside the step length what we'll do is uh, camera dot translate, and will translate 0 0 0 in the we are going to translate in the y direction. And how much we want to translate? Let's translate this. Let's do the yield. Wait for, and let's wait for, and that's it for the move camera. And let's do the game over. So we have created the game over function. First thing to do is start button, and we'll do the has game finish true, and then we'll start the coroutine. The coroutine will create it. So it's going to be enumerator. We are going to be end camera. Let's call this coroutine. For the end camera, what we are going to do is we'll scale and we'll transfer. So how much we are going to scale? The first thing, let's get the camera. Afterwards, let's get it, and let's set the end position. So vector define x, y, and similarly m dot. And here set the temp dot y a little bit down. And how much we are going to move is just stack dot count multiply by 0.5. We'll move a little bit downwards, and let's set up the camera size final. Going to be stack dot count by 0. And afterwards let's set the while camera get camera dot size, orthographic size is less than camera size final. So here we'll change the camera's orthographic size. So get dot orthographic size, and let's add the point. Afterwards we'll change the lerp, and we are going to lerp from the temp to final at 0.2. Let's set up the position of the camera and let's do the return events and how much we are going to wait. So let's wait for 0.01. So the end camera should work. The last thing we need to add is the start button. Almost should be finished. So let's add the functionality for the start button. So let's create it at the so it's going to be the public void start button, and here the first thing we'll check if the game is finished, then we'll just reload this game, else we'll start the game. So game is finished, then we'll do unity engine dot scene manage dot scene dot load scene 0, else we'll start the game. So as game started is going to be true, and we'll show the not show start button dot set active. So nothing else should be remaining, and let's go inside unity and our game should work fine and it should also end. Now let's add the functionality for the start button. So this is for the start button, and now let's hit play. And there are not any problems, but we need to set up the has game started false. So as game started was set up to true, and we need to set up to false. Now the game should be finished. There should not be errors. So now if we hit play, we should be able to play the game. And there's our some artifacts. Let's see. There'll be some problem with the main camera. Camera dot transform. Wait. Okay, we didn't call the move camera. So start coroutine. We created that move camera, but we didn't call. And I think there's some problem with the so for the perfect one, we are moving it the opposite direction when it is perfect. So let's see if it should be inside the tile. So transform dot translate distance. Maybe it should be negative distance. I don't know. So let's hit play. Let me. Yep, it was negative distance. So there was just a problem, and now it should work correctly. So see, there are problems, and the game is working correctly. So that was it for this video. If you guys suggest any game I should do, and it should be something easy type like a platform runner, and I'll be practicing. And if you guys like the video, like and subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you guys in the next video. So as you can see, that's how the game look. And thank you for watching. See you guys in the next lecture.